Hey friends, so I usually take you along with me as I source items for my vintage booth, my Etsy shop, and even my own home. But today I wanted to switch things up a little bit and talk a little bit more about the vintage booth side of things. I started my vintage booth almost a year ago, and while I don't know all the things, I also know that I don't know all the things. I have found it incredibly helpful to learn from other vintage booth owners who have been doing this much longer than me. I recently created a vintage reseller launch checklist. It's a list of 20 things that you can do to start your own vintage booth business. It's clear, concise, and takes you from no business to launch day. It's free and you can actually grab it in the description section below. But I thought it would be fun to go through each item and expound on each of them a little bit. So today I'll be covering the first 5 things on the list, and then we'll do a little booth tour, and at the end I will also give you another vendor tip, so stick around to the end. So step number 1 is to actually research different malls in your area. By malls we mean vintage booth stores. They're usually called vintage malls because the way that they're structured is the stores are kind of grouped off in different areas for each vendor. There are some that have a different structure where you will drop your items off and then they will actually display them for you. A lot of the ways those booths or those stores work is they intermix each vendor's items. So they might make a curated display or a little vignette that would include, you know, a variety of vendors' items, but to make a nice cohesive display, maybe like for the 4th of July, maybe matching colors, things that would go well in like a single home, like to kind of go with, I don't know, color coordinating and style. But first suggestion, research malls. One thing to note, to be aware of, is how close is it to your home. You're going to want to be in there no less than once a week, but probably at least twice a week. If lots of items are selling, you want to be able to replenish, even if it's not kind of your designated either your work day according to when the mall says you could be in there or just according to your own schedule. But if you're getting low on inventory and the mall allows you to go in whenever you please, replenish, you want to be in close proximity. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Another thing to be mindful of is, what do you think of the price point of that mall? We have a couple different vintage stores in our area, and before I landed on the one that I'm in, I toured a couple other ones kind of on my own and just noticed the price point of what they were selling, and I had to determine, like, do I think I can meet that price point? Do I think that I can source items at a reasonable price, add a markup to account for cleaning, my time sourcing, my time pricing, my time working in my booth, my time researching the item? Can I mark it up and still make a profit? Or am I going to struggle to find things with enough margin? So, but then also, there was one store in my area that I just felt like the price point was too high, and I didn't think I felt comfortable with myself that I could consistently find things that met that price point. So that's just another thing to be aware of. What you find you want it to fit the culture of that mall. So do a little bit of research, browse some malls, go in very intentionally as a possible vendor and as a shopper, and see what the experience is in that store. See how you feel being in that store. Do you like that mall? Do you feel at home in that mall? Do you feel comfortable? Is it not, maybe you don't like the employees? I don't know. They're like, make sure that you think that this is a place that you could connect well with, and start to get a good idea of some of the different options in your area. Number 2, narrow down your options. Super simple. Read through the vendor agreement. A lot of malls will put their vendor agreements right on their websites. It'll say like how to become a vendor. Click on that and there may be a vendor agreement right in there. Read through it. See how you feel about the expectation, about what's being asked, about different price points, about their policies in general. See if there's something that you feel comfortable with. If that mall doesn't offer a vendor agreement right online on their website, then go into the store and ask them. Be forthcoming and tell them, hey, I'm researching some malls in the area. I'm trying to narrow down where I think might be a good fit for me. And I'm wondering if you offer your vendor agreement to be looked at ahead of time. They might say no, they might say yes, but it's worth asking. And if you're just forthcoming with them, telling them like, you know, before I put an application somewhere, I want to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for me, they should be willing. You may have to ask to talk to management maybe, and not, you know, just the person behind the desk at that point, but maybe even a quick email, but that's well worth your time. Find out how much rent is. Knowing what rent is will give you a good grasp on if you think that this is going to be a good fit for you. Different malls have different rent structures. They have different rent prices. Look into it, make sure it's something that you think is achievable for you, that you think financially is something that fits. Worst case scenario is you have a month that you don't sell enough to make rent. Are you comfortable making that rent payment? Probably not in full, but at least in part. Or is it something that would really be a financial strain on your family if you took that on and couldn't make your rent for the month? Different things to be aware of as far as rent structure is most charge you by the square foot of your space. So they may give the square footage price, they may not. The mall I'm at gave clear square footage price, but I didn't really know how big the booths were. But by going in and doing some quick measurements, just even eyeballing it, I was able to see, okay, so this will cost me roughly this much. Other things to be aware of are sometimes they also take a commission percentage in addition to their flat booth rent. Know what that is ahead of time. And then just see if you can find out if there's any other charges. The booth I'm in, we can opt in for a digital log as things sell. I can get daily and hourly updates, but that's an additional charge. I'm also responsible for any credit card charges that people make when they purchase my item. If they pay with cash, I don't have an additional fee on top of that. But if you buy my item and you use your debit card or credit card, then I pay a percentage to cover the credit card fee. Find all those things out so you have an overall good view and good expectation of what you're going into, and start narrowing it down. And narrow it down, I would say, to maybe 3 options. Sounds very reasonable and very fair. Item number 3 on your list is to choose a niche. So choosing a niche can be a little bit overwhelming. It's really easy to think, well, like, I have interest in all the things and I want to do all the things, but choosing a niche will help you really hone in and know that when you're sourcing, you know exactly what you're looking for versus just being all over the place. Having a very clear idea of if it's your style or if it's only a specific item that you're going to carry will make you more known to your customers. It will help you create repeat customers because they will begin to know what it is that you carry, and they're like, that's totally my style, or I collect these items. And they will, if they love those items, they will come back to you over and over and over again, knowing that they can keep coming back to you to find what it is that you carry. So if you're kind of all over the place and you sell maybe vintage clothes, but you sell clothes from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's kind of hard. Or if you sell maybe vintage clothes from the 70s and then books from the 90s and then redone dishware, like those things don't really fit together real nice, and you'll kind of confuse your shopper. So choose something you love. Choose a category. I heard this in relation to starting like an Instagram account. like as like being an influencer, and this person said, choose something that you could talk about nonstop for 30 minutes. Choose something in your life that you already love, that is well established, that is not something new for you. Like if you love reading and you love rom-coms and that's your jam, start a booth that is all like what is it, date a book. Where like it's cute. I've seen them at our store. It's like they bind up the book, they kind of like wrap it all up so you can't see what the book is, and then they include like stickers that kind of correlate with it, and oh, what are they called? Oh, bookmarks that go along with it, but that all fit. But then the whole booth is like rom-coms, right? But then all things that correlate with reading, right? So maybe like reading sweatshirts, or like books that like sweatshirts that say like one more chapter, or coffee mugs that say one more chapter. I've seen those are really cute, but it's already something that you love, right? If you are really into boho, do boho and make that your niche. So it's boho decor, and it's like vendors or shoppers will know that if they like boho decor, like they're gonna find it at your booth and they're gonna keep coming back. But choose something that's true to you. So when I opened my booth, I got asked a lot, like, what are you gonna carry? And honestly, like the best way I could describe it was vintage decor that I would buy for my own home. So that sounds really, what's the word? I want to say like ambiguous. I don't know if that's the right word. Nondescript. But if you come into my home, you know my style. You're not surprised then when you walk into my booth, you're like, yes, I would see these items in Chris's home. I am not surprised by what I see in her booth. I could also describe my style as very cottage style, very grandma. Like I like old, cozy feeling items, right? But there's a consistent style there that I'm not switching up, that people are like wondering and going, okay, I'm kind of confused. Why does she have this in here? This doesn't really seem to fit. I actually did it. I totally did it. I was outsourcing and I found this, I don't know, I think it was like it looked like a chip and like dip bowl, except for it was very fancy to be a chip bowl. But it was mid-century modern, and it was gorgeous. I'll see if I have a picture. If I have a picture, I'll share it up here somewhere. But absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. The price for sourcing it was fantastic. And I questioned and I second guessed myself whether I should get it, because it's not something I would put in my house. But I bought it. And like I said, very, very mid-century modern, kind of a pink glass. And it's been sitting in my booth for months, because if you walk through my booth because you like my style, it looks out of place and it does not fit. So that means that people who are walking by my booth, deciding if they're actually going to walk into my booth, they're going to do a quick scan of my booth to decide if it's their style, if it's something they're interested in. If they like mid-century modern, they're going to glance through my booth and go, nope, not for me. And they're going to miss that bowl. And that's why it's been sitting there for so long, because I bought something that's outside of my niche. So choose your thing, whatever it is. And also this goes back to doing your research, and it's kind of why you're doing these really close together. Reading vendor agreements and understanding the policy of the booths or the different vintage malls will tell you what you're allowed to sell in the store. Some malls, it strictly has to be vintage items. Some malls can be vintage and handmade. Some malls don't really have rules. So know ahead of time, like, because you're kind of doing these things, at least three things all at the same time. Figuring out your niche while you're doing your research to decide which mall is the right fit for you is going to be very beneficial. Because if you decide to sell Ray Dunn items, but the mall that you like the best doesn't allow new items or items that are under 20 years old, that's not the mall for you. So choose your niche. And then along with choosing your niche, do your research. Is there a desire in the market for the item that you want to sell? If there's not a desire in the market, you have a dead product or dead category. You're not going to make the sales. Your booth is going to struggle. You might fail. Like, your booth might fail if what you are selling no one wants to buy. So do some market research, and a really good way to do that would be very, very specific for you would be going back to doing your mall research and going into the local malls that are closest to your area and see if other people are selling those items. If other people aren't selling those items and these vendors have been in these malls for 4, 7, 12, 20 years and no one else is selling, you guys, and no one else is selling My Little Ponies with their heads taken off, but like doll heads put on in place, there's not a market for that. So don't sell it because you will struggle. And honestly, the goal is, and this kind of goes back to my intro, I do not think I know everything. I have not been doing this a year. I am not an expert, but I am choosing to be a student of this thing that I'm trying, right? I am choosing to be a student and to learn from the people around me who have been doing this for 12, 15, and 20 years. And I'm so thankful I actually have been able to learn from those people because at my mall, we have vendor meetings and I go to every single one of them and I get to sit across from the table from people who've been doing this for 15 years, and I sit there and I take notes and I take notes and I take notes and I try to learn everything that they will offer. And anytime somebody gives me a tip, I write that down and I try to learn. So choose to be a student, right? Don't think you're the exception. Don't think, hey, no one else is doing this, so I found the in the market, right? If no one else is doing it, there is probably a reason for it. Another great tip, I just thought of this to go along with, if while you're doing your research, let's see, what's a category? Let's say vintage magazines. Let's say you collect vintage magazines. Say you do your research, but in all the malls you've searched, you've only been able to find two booths in 2 completely different malls that sell vintage magazines. A great way to know if this is actually worth your time, because there's so few, ask the store how long that vendor has been there. If that vendor has only been there for 2 months, I wouldn't put too much stock into that product, right? It hasn't been there long enough to be tested. If that mall tells you this vendor's been here for 8 years, this has always been what they sell, and they do great, and they would know that, right? They will know what they consistently sell. And honestly, if that vendor even has like any like social media, phone number, name, Facebook that you can look up, feel free to text them, message them, email them, whatever, and just say like, hey, I noticed your booth. I really like what you have to offer. Can I ask how long you've been doing this? You know, don't expect to be able to ask them 1,000,001 questions, but just to say like, do you like your niche? Like, do you like what it is that you're doing? Has this been successful for you? Might be worth your time. Okay. Step number 4. Fill out applications. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fill out more than one application. Different vendors or different malls have wait lists or policy on how many vendors they will allow with selling the same item or types of items. So a mall might have an opening, but if this is their spot, that there's their opening, but what you want to sell, this person and this person also sell, they're probably not going to offer you that spot because they want to kind of intermingle different styles and different booths so they're not all grouped together. But also, like, different malls have wait times, and it might be a first come first serve. It might be based on what the product is that you're offering. So feel free to fill out applications at different malls. If they call you, you can always say no. So don't feel obligated that because you because you filled out an application that if they give you a call, you have to say yes. So number 4, go fill out applications. All right, number 5, last item on the list that we're going to cover today. Set a budget. Set a budget, set a budget, set a budget. This is your starting budget. It would be so easy to let starting a booth get out of control. And I'm well aware, like, this is likely coming from your family's finances. And so unless you already have like a business going on somewhere else that's similar, that you can, you know, this is an extension of that business, this is coming from family money. So start making a budget of things you expect to have as expenses. Things to include are your first month's rent will likely be due when you sign your vendor agreement. You will need items to display your things in your booth, whether that's a piece of furniture, a bookcase, some shelving, things like that. You're going to need some kind of display pieces. Business items like tags. Honestly, as far as business items go, when you're starting off, you can choose to be very minimal. You might be able to do tags and you already have pens at home, and that is all you need. I can link the tags that I have in the description below. Super inexpensive. I think there's like something crazy like 600 tags in each bag. So I think I've only purchased my second set of tags for the year. So they last a really long time. And then possibly paint, depending on your booth space and if you're allowed to paint it. And I only say paint is because if what they offer you is like just doesn't fit, like if they've painted the walls and they're black and you're like, no, I am beach and airy, then a gallon of white paint, right? You can do a gallon of white paint pretty inexpensively, especially since it's not your home, right? You don't have to buy the best of the best paint, but maybe, I don't know, so what's that, $25, $30, and then inventory. So what I would do is make a list, get an idea of your rent, give yourself a budget for display items, start looking on Facebook Marketplace and figuring out kind of what's reasonable, make that a line item. Your tags, $15, paint, put that out as not optional for $30, and then say like, okay, now what's a reasonable amount of money for inventory? And honestly, sit down with your spouse and make sure you guys are on the same page and just say like, hey, how does this look as far as like first month getting ready for launch? As far as inventory goes, here's a little side note. To help make your inventory budget go further, shop your house first. I started going through my house going, okay, yes, I really like this. I have it out on display. Do I feel like I could replace it though? Like, do I feel like I come across this type of item often enough that I can put this one for sale knowing I can replace it later? And I was able to pull quite a few things, you know, out of storage, or even like, I started right before in the fall season and coming up to the Christmas season. And so I was like, okay, what kind of like, what do I have for seasonal decor that I wouldn't mind replacing? Go through your things that you already have at home and see what you can pull from there. Set a reasonable budget that is reasonable for you. Don't go huge because you are starting something new. So be realistic, don't be extreme. And then, but set a reasonable budget, but then have the goal that each month after your first month, you're going to be able to pull some of your profits from that month and put it towards the next month. If you watch some of my other videos, in one of them I showed my label printer. I really like this. I only bought this last month. It was great, but because I wanted to be able to have stickers for pricing, not just tags, because some things would price easier with a sticker, I purchased that. But go into that with the thought that, okay, I'm going to take a portion of my profits and put some of it back towards inventory, some of it back towards business supplies, some of it needs to go to taxes, and then some of it goes, you get a check. So know that each month you're going to be able to put back into your business, right? Don't feel like you need to purchase everything all at once. It's just getting started the first month. What do you need to get started for the first month? And then what can you add slowly in later, month by month? Okay. That's enough of those. Those are my 5 tips, or my 5 first steps. Like I said, go down to the description. This is all just step by step in a doc that I made for you guys. It's, like I said, completely free. I totally expounded on all of these. It's just a checklist to keep you moving along. What I'm really bad at is when I start something new is I kind of like tend to go all over the place. Like I'm like, okay, I need to do this, and well, no, I need to do this, and then now I'm over here and I need to do this, and I get distracted and I don't stay focused, and I also don't necessarily always know what order to do things in. And so I really sat down and I'm like, okay, with what I know now, what would I suggest, or what have I told other new vendors when they've asked for help? Like, what have I given them as tips of getting started? And so that's what I put together. It's 20 steps from, like I said, from nothing to opening your booth, right? Your grand opening, 20 steps right in order. So go to the description, click, you can get that straight to your inbox. I think it's super helpful. So, okay, let's take a break, and I'm gonna actually take you on a little booth tour of my booth at Changing Times in Grandville, Michigan. I'm so excited to bring you guys along today and give you a little tour of my booth space. So every Tuesday at my mall that I'm part of is vendor work day. So they're designated hours where only the vendors can come in, and we are able to clean, restock, and work on our booth space. So sometimes I'll come in and I'll just bring in new inventory, do a little rearranging and tidying from the previous week, and just make things look fresh and new. But other weeks I'll come in and I will remove a portion of what's in here, give it a good rearranging, give it a fresh look. So even though I don't have new inventory coming in, things look different for the shoppers. This is a great way to make things that maybe have been overlooked because of the placement in the store, and maybe bring them to the front or make them be a little bit more visible. But the idea is just keeping things looking fresh and new. I found this adorable vintage stool at an estate sale. Isn't it so cute? I'm not sure if the upholstery is original, but I loved it so much. I thought it was so sweet. I try to keep a variety of items in my booth, but that all seem to fit my style and my taste and the same cohesive look. So here's how things are looking most recently. I picked up that cute high chair at a flea market a couple weeks ago. I thought that was so fun and unique. I love lamps, but they move pretty slow, but I still love having a couple options in the booth. I also love textiles. I love a good throw blanket and pillowcases and just different cozy options like that. I even have a table runner in there, but those seem to sell pretty well for me, which is really exciting since it's something that I love to source anyways. As we walk around, see if you can spot that chip bowl and dip bowl that I had mentioned before. They're in here somewhere hiding. So I love having a good variety of little items. They seem to sell really well. Items that are priced maybe under $10, under $7. They seem to be a hot spot for customers just because it's easy to say yes to something that's so inexpensive. But then having a good variety of a lot of different price points is fun. I found this vintage typewriter at a thrift store a couple weeks ago, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I have it marked really high because I kind of like the idea of having it as a display piece for just a little bit. It's so fun, and I thought it would be kind of a fun attention grabbing item. And then I got this cool desk actually from my neighbor next door. We actually swapped furniture pieces. So I had a big hutch right here and she had this green desk, and we just decided to trade, and her desk looks so cute in my booth space and my hutch looks so perfect with her decor and the artwork that she likes to display. So I'd say it was a good trade-off. We are both very happy with the decision. It's really cool. One of the things that I didn't expect was the community of other vendors that are here. They're all so sweet and kind, and I've just enjoyed getting to know so many of them so much better. This is definitely my Starbucks treat day, that I just stop at Starbucks, get my favorite drink, and come in here and work for a couple hours. And it's just my happy place. I love this journey of being a vintage booth owner, and if you decide to do it, I think you will too. Okay, I promised you guys a vendor tip at the end if you stuck around. Here's my vendor tip. Don't be afraid to start small. When I started off, I thought that unless my booth was big or in the perfect location, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth my time, and I should just wait. And what I've learned so much. I've learned that that's wrong. So don't be afraid to start small. There is so much learning that happens in the doing that you, by putting off starting because you're waiting for something to be perfect or big enough or to feel like it's worth your time, you're missing out on learning. When I was first offered my booth space, I didn't think it was in a great location, and so I almost passed on it. Not really, but kind of. You know, I was hesitant, but I decided to go for it anyways. I have literally made my booth rent every single month plus profit, and I was very wrong. That booth space was a great location for me. A couple months later, a spot opened up down an aisle, and it was double the square footage, and I decided to go for it because I was thinking that doubling my space, my sales would just boom. I doubled my space, but because I also was able to get a few more bookcases in there, I like tripled my inventory, which was great. But in my 5 months in this new space, I've only once matched my high month in my old space that was half the size. So that's not profit. That's total sales for the month, which means my profit was better at my old space, which, like I said, was smaller. Don't be afraid to start small. I will say that when I started, it was going into the holiday season, which was a contributing factor. People were doing a lot of gift shopping, and so that was really beneficial. But learning in a larger space because you think you need bigger means that lessons are also possibly more costly. If you don't make rent in your larger space, you're going to end up paying for that out of pocket, which you do not want. So like I said, again, don't be afraid to start small. I actually have a friend that has 2 booth spaces. They're both wall space. One's about 3 feet wide with floating shelves, and the other one's maybe 4 feet wide with 1 bookcase on it. And she fits so much on her shelves. She displays the cutest items. Another little tip. Majority of her items I would put into the category of knickknacks, right? Small decor items. When I look through my inventory of what sells and I break down the categories, knickknacks are by far my best sellers, and that is all she has. So starting even with just a wall space that is only maybe a foot deep and you can fit a bookcase on it can be well worth your time and your effort, especially if you're just getting started and you're dipping your toe in and you're not sure what the time commitment is going to be at, right? Because it's new and you've never done this. So all that to say, don't be like I was, thinking that if it wasn't perfect, the perfect size, the perfect location, it wasn't worth it. Start small and have a mindset to learn and to grow where you are. that's all for today. That's all I have to share with you guys. If you like this, please subscribe. I love talking about this. I love learning about being a vendor in a vintage booth space. I love talking about it with other vendors. I love learning and growing and sharing what I've learned. So these were the first 5 items on the checklist out of 20. Follow along. I'll be sharing the next 15 items over the next couple weeks. So check back and come along with me on my other thrift trips. And if you have any questions about these, like, write them in the description. I would love to talk about it more. I'd love to clarify anything that maybe wasn't clear or you have questions about what I shared. And I can't wait to see you guys next time.